Good morning, everyone. As usual, I'm only pre-recording this lecture because we're not able to go to Holy Angel, to Mother of Good Counsel Seminary, and and due to the rains. So let's go through the slides because this is just a very quick recording to instruct you how it's done, and then most of the time will be spent on activities already. So we are going to discuss truth tables for arguments. We already know how truth tables work for propositions. Now we are going to use the truth tables for a different purpose, testing the validity of deductive arguments. So our concern here is not simply whether a proposition is true or false. We want to determine whether the conclusion of an argument logically follows from its premises. That is the focus of this lecture, using truth tables to determine validity. Before we continue, let's look at the learning objectives first. These are the things we should be able to do by the end of the lecture. First, we need to distinguish truth from validity. These are different concepts. Second, we need to determine whether a deductive argument is valid or invalid. Take note, I'm emphasizing deductive argument, general to specific types of arguments, not inductive arguments. That's very difficult to determine its validity or invalidity based on these techniques. Third, we need to symbolize arguments. This means converting ordinary sentences into logical symbols. Fourth, we will learn how to construct direct truth tables and identify counterexample rows. Fifth, we will learn the indirect truth table, which gives us another way of testing validity. Finally, you should be able to apply these methods independently to arguments that you have not seen before. So, what are we trying to do? Technically, we are saying that every argument have two components, premises and conclusions. The premises are the statements offered as reasons. The conclusion is the statement that supposedly follows from those reasons. The example says if A will play, then B will play. A will play. Therefore, B will play. Symbolically, we write it this way. A, arrow B, comma, A, that's the second premise. Therefore, the three dots, B. The important question is not whether A and B will actually play. We are asking if the premises are true, must the conclusion also be true? That is the question of validity. So throughout this lesson, keep that question in mind. If we assume the premises are true, is it possible for the conclusion to be false? That last statement, if the this question, if the premises are true, must the conclusion also be true, is the question of validity. If you say if the premises are true, must the conclusion be false, then that is a question of invalidity. Because if the premises are true and the conclusion is false, that's an invalid argument. But if the premises are true but the conclusion is true, then it is valid. A Here we have the basic distinction between a valid and an invalid deductive argument. Take note again, we're only focusing on deductive argument. An argument is valid when it is impossible for all the premises to be true while the conclusion is false. An invalid argument happens when that situation is possible. So the combination we are looking for is premise 1 true, premise 2 true, all the premises true, and then the conclusion is false. If we can produce that combination, the argument is invalid. This is the main rule that we will use throughout today's lesson. All premises true plus conclusion false equals invalid. Remember that pattern because when we construct truth tables, that is exactly the row we will be looking for. But before we move forward, let's clarify first that truth is not the same as validity. We now need to make an important distinction. Truth and validity are not the same. Truth belongs to propositions. A proposition or a statement can be valid, a proposition can be true or false. A proposition can be true or false. So we can say this proposition is true or this proposition is false. Validity belongs to arguments. An argument can be valid or invalid. I hope that's clear. Therefore, we should not say that a proposition, a statement, is valid or invalid. And we should not normally describe an argument as true or false. Keep the terms separate. Propositions, true or false. Arguments, valid or invalid. This distinction will be important when we start evaluating arguments using truth tables. But do not use factual truth to test validity. The slide emphasizes that we should not use factual truth to determine validity. Look at the first argument. That person is a wife. Therefore, that person is married. If the premise is true, can the conclusion be false? No. If the person is a wife, then that person is married. So the argument is valid. Now reverse it. That person is married, therefore that person is a wife. Can the premise be true while the conclusion is false? Yes. The person could be a husband. Therefore, the second argument is invalid. Notice that we did not investigate whether some particular person is actually married. We simply examined the logical connection between the premise and the conclusion. That is what validity concerns. Now, before we construct truth tables for arguments, let's look at the 5 basic connectives first. And of course, before I continue discussing this, please take note, negation is just a negative sign without the tail. This figure has a tail. Conjunction is just an ampersand, and disjunction is just a slash sign. No? So these are the 5 basic logical connectives we studied last week. First, negation symbolized by a negative sign. Negation simply reverses the truth value. If A is true, not A is false. If A is false, not A is true. Second, conjunction symbolized by an ampersand. Meaning and. A conjunction is true if only, or a conjunction is true only when both parts are true. The third is disjunction, symbolized by a slash mark, meaning or. A disjunction is false only when both parts are false. The slide reminds us that this is inclusive or. One may be true, the other may be true, or both may be true. Fourth is conditional, symbolized by a one-sided arrow, which means if then. It is false only when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Only when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Finally, the biconditional, symbolized by a double-sided arrow. This is true when both sides have the same truth values. These rules are important because every calculation in our truth tables will actually depend on them. So do not forget these. It will play a very important role in your understanding of what will happen next. In fact, when you look at this rule, the conditional will play a very, very important role. We give special attention to the conditional because this is where mistakes often happen. There are 4 possible combinations. If the consequent is true and the antecedent is true, true. A true antecedent followed by a true consequent gives us a true conditional. But if the antecedent is true and the consequent is false, it will give us a false conditional. Take note, this is the only false case. True antecedent, false consequent. So if you have a false antecedent but true consequence, that's still a true conditional. Or if you have a false antecedent and a false consequent, that's still a true conditional. So you do not really need to memorize four separate rules. Remember just one. If true, then false, that's a false conditional. A conditional is false only when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Every other combination is true. Technically, you only memorize that slide, the previous slide, where I basically explained already the special circumstances of each of these basic connectives. Now, let's look at the first method, which is our lesson for today. We now come to our first method for testing arguments, the direct truth table. The simple idea that you have to take note here, the idea is actually very simple. We construct a truth table containing every possible combination of truth values. After constructing the table, we search for the situation that would make the argument invalid. What's that situation? All premises are true and the conclusion is false. The slide gives us the sequence we should follow. First, symbolize the argument. Second, identify the variables. Third, determine the number of rows. Fourth, construct the necessary guide columns. Finally, evaluate the premises and the conclusion. The important thing is to follow the process systematically by skipping the steps rather than skipping steps. Now, the question is, how many rows should I follow? Before constructing a truth table, we need to know how many rows it should contain. The rule is 2 raised to the number of variables. The letter N represents the number of distinct propositional variables. So if there is one variable, we need 2 raised to the 1 first power, which is equivalent to 2 rows. If there are 2 variables, we need 2 raised to the second power, or 4 rows. If there are 3 variables, we need 2 raised to the third power, or 8 rows. If there are 4 variables, we need 2 raised to the fourth power, or 16 rows. And if there are 5 variables, we need 2 raised to the fifth power, or 32 rows. So the first thing you should do is count the distinct variables. Do not count how many times a letter appears. Count how many different propositional variables occur in the argument. Once you know the number, use 2 raised to n to determine the number of rows. This is important because if we construct too few rows, we may leave out a possible truth value combination, including the very row that could show that the argument is invalid. So let's look at an example. So this is a word example. So here is we have our first complete example of a direct truth table. If you look at the argument has three variables, A, B, and C. So look at the premises. If A, then B. If B, then C. Therefore, the conclusion is if A, then C. Just count how many letters there are there. The letters, not the occurrence. Okay? Because there are three variables, we use the formula 2 raised to the third power, which gives us 8 rows. So that's the reason why you will, when you look at this example in front of you, there are 8 rows. So you put A, B, C first, that those are the variables, and then you put the formula, if A then B, if B then C, and then the conclusion A to C. Of course, here you then you put all the possible, because there are 8, this is how you should do it. The first row will be half of the 8 rows will be true, half will be false. The second row, half of the half, that's why look at this one, T T T T F F F F 8, 4 T's for F. The B will be 2 T's, 2F, because the first row was 4T and 4F. The second row will be 2T, 2F, so TTFF, TTFF. And then the last row will be alternating TF, 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 TF. Okay? Then, when you do the truth tables, do not put it under one variable. So, I cannot ask the slide to put it only under the arrow, but in reality, it should be directly under the conditional, not under any of the variables. So it should be under the arrow. So so you look at this. We look at AB first. If A is true, B is true, that's a true conditional in the AB. True, false, that is a true conditional. True, true, that's a true conditional. But when you have a true T and a false T, that's when you have a false conditional. True T, false B, true A, false B, that's a false conditional, and then the rest are true. The same is true for the combinations of B and C. If B is true, C is true, it's a true conditional. But if B is true and F is false, that's an F conditional. And then the same is true for the conclusion. If A is true and C is false, that's a false conditional, and everything continues. So after completing the truth values of all the proposition, we look specifically for a row, not column, for a row in which both premises are true while the conclusion is false. So when we look at this one, we will look at this one by one. So these are the proposition. The proposition should be true and the conclusion is false. Can you see an instance where all the proposition are true and the conclusion is false? No? So the goal is to look for all the proposition where the premises, of course, these are the premises, right? The A, B are your premises. And if the conclusion is false, that's the only instance we're looking for. True yellow, false green. So one by one, you will look for that instance. Of course, I dito failed na itong instance na to. Let's remove it. So all the premises true and the conclusion false. There are only 4 instances here, and never, I mean never, will you find true a true premise. So meron bang ganito? True itong premise na to. Again, as I said, ilagay diretso sa statement dapat. So, take note of the alignment. Hindi pwedeng mailagay sa any of the letters to, ha. If you do that, mali ito. So, it has to be like this. If the statement is true and the premises are false, or and the premise is false, do not confuse the truth value from the invalidity or validity question. Ito, the thing that you have in front of you, which I will, sandali lang. I'm trying to change the color of the diagram, but doesn't want to change color. So let's go orange. So if this is true and false, this is the only instance the argument will be invalid. But because you do not find it in this instance, then because there's no such row. So we look at all the 8 rows. We look specifically for a row in which both premises are true while the conclusion is false. And there's no such row. Therefore, the argument is valid. The important point is not that every statement in every row must be true. That is not what we're looking for. We are only looking for the combination premises true, conclusion false. Since the combination never arrived or never occurs, the argument is valid. That's what makes a valid argument. Let me clear all the drawings and move to the next slide. Now, look at this one. No? The second example is an invalid argument. The argument is if D, then K, K, therefore D. There are only 2 variables here, D and K. So we need 2 raised to the second power, or 4 rows. No, take note, no, again, no, when we start computing, we're looking this, when we start talking about rows, this is what, this is what 4 rows actually mean. No? Only those that have arrows. And I've said, if you have 4 rows, for the first variables, you actually deal immediately with the 2, di ba? Divide the rows into 2 first. That's how it's done. And then, true, false, true, true, false, false. That's the first manifestation. But in the second variable, it will be an alternate true false already, right? If this is 4, of course, just as in the previous example, 4 true, 4 false in the first variable. When we're talking about variable, again, just take note, not the number of occurrence. So don't count 1, 2, this is wrong. Instead, you count it, this is actually very wrong, okay? When you when you count the variable, count it number of a number of variables. So in this case, there are only two, that is D and K. No other letter was used. For that matter, we will only use two and therefore four rows. Okay? Now, again, we put the true, false, true, false, true, false, and then one by one, again, we apply, no? If D is true, K is true in a conditional. If D is true, K is true, this is true. If D is true, and then we can look at if K is true, that's still K. Yes, you reflect the exact value as in this because this is a single one. And then also the D here, you will also apply here. That is true. Now we look at if D is true and F is false, this will be a false statement. K is false, D is true. If F is true and K is true, this is a true statement. This is a true statement. This is a false statement. And here, if it's an FF, this is still true. F is true. F is false. Now, we said we only need to look for one instance, and that is the instance where the premises are true and the conclusion is false. And or look at the when the premises are both true and there has to be a true conclusion. In this case, this is okay, but the first instance is okay, but in the second, it becomes false. This is the only instance. This is the only instance where the entire argument will be invalid. Yes, just one is enough. Okay? So we actually have the combination we are looking for. Premise 1 true, premise 2 true, conclusion false. Therefore, the argument is invalid. Once we find this row, we already have enough information. One such row is sufficient to establish invalidity. Sapat na yan. Kahit iisa yan, sapat na yan para maging invalid yung buong argument. Let's continue. So, the row we found in the previous slide has a special name. It is called a counterexample. A counterexample is a particular assignment of truth values that makes all the premises true and the conclusion false at the same time. For the argument, if D, then K, K, therefore D. The counterexample is D is false, K is true. With these values, the two premises are true, but the conclusion is false. That single assignment is enough to show that the conclusion does not necessarily follow from the premises. So when we say find a counterexample, we are looking for a truth value assignment that produces our bad combination. All premises true and the conclusion false. Now let's look at affirming the consequent as a valid, as a classic invalid form. This slide gives us another example of an invalid argument. The argument says if A will play, then B will play. B will play. Therefore, A will play. Symbolically, if A arrow B, therefore A. Look at the row where A is false and B is true. The first premise, if A then B is true, because a conditional with a false antecedent and a true consequent is true. The second premise, B, is also true, but the conclusion A is false. Again, we have all premises true and conclusion false. Therefore, the argument is invalid. This particular invalid form is called affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, therefore P. Kung umihi ako, mababasa yung floor. Basa yung floor. Kaya, umihi ako. Hindi necessarily correct. Pwedeng basa yung floor kasi umulan, basa yung floor kasi nagbaha, basa yung floor kasi may natapon, and things like that. The truth table shows precisely why this form of thinking is invalid. And remember, we're only looking at that instance in our slide where, as you will see, the premises are true and the conclusion is false. This one instance is enough to invalidate the entire the entire argument. Now let's do these exercises. So pause for the meantime and get a long pad paper, long, no, yellow pad paper, and work on these exercises. So you are given 4 arguments. Pause this recording if needed, but let me give the instructions first. You are given 4 arguments, and for each argument, follow the procedure we have discussed. First, symbolize the argument, which means if you don't know how to symbolize at this point, it's already wrong. Everything is wrong. Second, identify the variables and determine the required number of rows. Third, construct the complete truth table. Fourth, examine the rows and look for a counter example. Remember what you are looking for. All premises true and conclusion false. Finally, state where the argument is valid or invalid based on your truth table. Work through these independently, please. Well, because you are working on it as a class, so work on it independently first, and then after working on it independently, then and then and then after you work on it independently, please try to work on it as a class. Pause this recording before and do it first before we continue with the lecture. So pause the recording now. Assuming that you have paused the recording, let's look at the difficulty of dealing with direct truth tables. We now move from the direct truth table to the indirect truth table. So the direct method works well, but there is a practical problem. the number of rows increases very quickly. With 3 variables, we have 8 rows. With 5 variables, we already have 32 rows. With 6 variables, we have 64 rows. And with 7 variables, we have 128 rows. So constructing a complete truth table can become very tedious. The indirect method gives us another approach. Instead of so take note, this is a shortcut method, but you need to know how to make direct and indirect truth tables. So when I'm back, we will do direct truth tables regardless of whether I give you a 5 variables, 6 variables, even 7 variables. So you have to be prepared. Even if I give you 7 variables, you still need to be able to work on it. Okay? Instead of constructing every possible row and then looking for the bad row, we need to construct the bad row directly. Ito yung indirect. In other words, we immediately ask, can all the premises be true while the conclusion is false? If we can construct that situation consistently, the argument is invalid. If attempting to construct it necessarily produces a contradiction, the argument is valid. So, how do we do an indirect truth table? So, the indirect table or method changes our strategy. Instead of asking about every possible combinations of truth values, we ask only one targeted question. Can I make all the premises true and the conclusion false without producing a contradiction? So we begin by assuming invalidity. Then we break down the propositions. We assign the truth values required by that assumption. After that, we check whether those assignments produce a contradiction. If the assignments remain consistent, then the bad row is possible. Therefore, the argument is invalid. If the assignments necessarily contradict one another, then the bad row is impossible. Therefore, the argument is valid. So, the indirect method is really an attempt to construct a counterexample without constructing the entire truth table. So, in short, what I'm saying is you assume it already to be invalid. So, assuming invalidity. The first step for an indirect method is very important. We begin by assuming that the argument is invalid. This does not mean that we have already decided that it is invalid. We are simply testing whether invalidity is possible. Remember, in the direct method, we need to do all possible combinations, and then despite so, if there's just one instance where the premises is true and the conclusion is false, that instance will invalidate everything. So what would happen if the argument is invalid? We already know the answer. All premises must be true and the conclusion must be false. Therefore, we begin by writing true below every premise. Then we write false below the conclusion. After making these initial assignments, we begin breaking down the compound propositions according to their truth values. As we do this, we keep asking, can these truth values remain consistent or they will force a contradiction? That question will determine our final answer. So let's look at the rules for the indirect method. So this slide will summarize the rules that we use when breaking down propositions. For negation, the truth value is reversed. So if not A is true, then A must be false. If not A is false, then A must be true. For a conjunction, if A ampersand B is true, then A and B must also be true. Take note, it's not an arrow up, ha? It's an ampersand. If the conjunction is false, at least one of them must be false. If for a disjunction, if A slash B is false, again slash, not a letter V, both A and B must be false. If the disjunction is true, at least one must be true. For the conditional, remember one important rule. To make A, if A then be false, there's only one possibility. If A is true, and B is false. And finally, for a biconditional, if it is true, both sides must have the same truth value. If it is false, the two sides must have different truth values. So these are the same connective rules we already used and learned. The difference is that we are now using them backward. Given that an expression must be true, or false, we determine that what values its components must have. So let's look at an example. So this is an OR example. So now we apply the indirect method, and the argument is W or S, therefore W. We begin by assuming invalidity. That means premise true, conclusion false. So the conclusion is W. Therefore, W is false. Now consider the premise W or S true. We know already that W is false. So in order for the disjunction to remain true, S must be true. Therefore, S is true. Now check whether there's any contradiction. We have a W that is false, S is true. Then, if W or S is false or true, then everything is consistent. The premise is true and the conclusion is false. Therefore, we have successfully constructed a counter example where you have true premises and a false conclusion. Let me go to use a whiteboard uh, to demonstrate these more clearly. So let's look at the example that we have last time. And last time we were using the example, so W, if W, and then we have the arrow. Now it becomes difficult to produce the arrow, but I will produce a one-liner, normally ganito. If if P then Q, remember the affirming the consequent. And then after that, we will have a Q, and then we will have the three dots, right? But normally, before we do it this way only because there's no way we can arrive at that. So this is how it's normally done, right? And then we said we assume the premises to be true. So let's just reposition this so that it's clear. This is the one that's true. Put it under the arrow. This is true. And we said the premise, we already assume to be false. And it has to be placed there. Pwede palang i-align silang lahat. At pwede silang mag-align talaga. There. Di ba? Now, this is the only instance the entire premise will be false. Now, we know P, the value of P is false. So let's put the value of P under here because P is false, right? There. And then we know T to be true. Q to be true because here Q is true here, right? So now you have an instance that for the first time, you have an instance where the premises are true and the conclusion is false. Ay, sorry. Ano ba nangyari? Excuse me. Nawala. Let me delete that. So, now we have an instance that we are looking for. And this is the instance where the premises are true and the conclusions are false. Okay? Ayaw eh. So, I cannot, but that is how you will do it. Of course, it's easy if you're just doing very minimal examples. So, we can look at it in any other way, in this way. But take note, I want you to see where, so the value of T here is the same, the Q here is the same value of Q there. The value of P here is the same value as this one here. This will give you a true truth value. This is already true and this is false. So pay attention at that occurrence because that's the only instance it will become valid or invalid. Okay? So, in the indirect truth table, we are trying to construct a situation where all the premises are true and the conclusion is false. Sometimes, however, our assignments force the same variable to have two different truth values. For example, one part of the argument may require A to be true, while other parts of the argument will require A to be false. Take note that what this gives us, A is true or false. Okay? So this is a contradiction. A proposition cannot be true or false and false at the same time. So if every variable can receive one stable truth value, the assignment is consistent. This means the counterexample is possible. So the argument is invalid. But if a variable is forced to be both true and false, the assignment is contradictory. The attempted counterexample is impossible. So the argument is valid. So the question simply, can we construct the bad situation without contradicting ourselves? So let's look at direct and indirect side by side. The direct truth table constructs all possible rows. After completing the table, we search for a row where all premises are true and the conclusion is false. If we find one, the argument is invalid. If there's no such row, the argument is valid. The indirect truth table does not construct every row. Instead, it immediately tries to construct the bad row. We assume all premises to be true and the conclusion false. Then we work out the required truth values. If the assignment is consistent, the argument is invalid. If it produces a contradiction, the argument is valid. So the slide recommends the direct method for 3 or fewer variables and the indirect method for 4 or more variables. But as I've said, whether there are 4 or 5 variables, you need to be able to do it using the direct or indirect truth tables. Both methods are testing exactly the same thing. Now let's go to your exercises here. Uh, so this slide is for the student exercise. So we will not solve the argument, but please solve it individually and then also solve it as a class. For each argument, use the indirect method. Begin with the assumption every premise true, conclusion false. Then break down the proposition according to the rules for negation, conjunction, disjunction, conditional, and biconditional. Continue assigning truth values, then ask whether the assignment is consistent or contradictory. If it is consistent, write invalid. If it is necessary, if it necessarily produces a contradiction, write valid. So there are 5 arguments independently. Work through these 5 arguments and you can pause the recording if you want. Let's just clarify the symbols here in front of you. So the arrow going up, that's an ampersand, that's an and. And the arrow going down, that's an or statement. The negation with a tail, that should be a negation sign alone. So I can work and demonstrate. Look at this one. This is D. If D, then E and G. Therefore, not G. If not G, then not D. No? So please look at this one. Work on it one by one. Assume all the premises to be true and the conclusion false. How do you know the conclusion? The conclusion is based on the sign. We can work on number 3 just for me to demonstrate to you uh, how these things work. But let me take a photo of that so I can reconstruct it first for everybody to see. So and then I will go to the I will go again to my whiteboard to show to you how it's done. So in this case, sige, let's go back to the whiteboard. Um, Let's delete. Oh, well, we can actually just go up. No need to delete. So let's look at the statement. Let me rewrite the statement. If D, then, sorry, if D, then E and G, and then we said, wait, we have to remove the period there. G, and then we can basically do it again here. Therefore, wait, ayaw niyo magsulat. Therefore, we can look at the statement. Nawala yung picture ko. Hindi ko tuloy makita kung ano ang formula. So, not G, then not D. So, again, no, when you look at these statements, we presume the statement, so in an indirect method, so you have to be able to identify which is the main connective, no? In this case, the main connective is the or. If it's a conditional, in the same way that in this case, the main connective is also the conditional. Now let's assign sorry, it should be false, right? Because that's the instance we're looking at. Now let's assign the truth value. These statements will only be true. How can I change the color? Maybe I can change the color. Yes, I can. Okay, I'm changing the colors now. So this is only possible, or this is only possible. Ayaw na. This is only possible if the statement is false, and this is only possible if the other statement is true, right? And take note, I placed it under the negative sign because that's the value we're looking at. But if G is false, if not G is false, that will turn G to be false, right? The value of G. Take note, tapat-tapat. So, and if not D is false, that will make D true, right? That is the truth value of D. Kasi nga not false siya. Okay? Now, to identify the truth value, of course, we're looking at not G and not D. That's why it's false. But we know G to be false and D to be true. So, if that is the case, we can look at G here is false, right? G is false. If G is false already in this instance, regardless of whether E is true or false, whether this is true or false, it will still give the truth value false to the consequent, right? Kahit ano ang value nung E, true man yan, false man yan, dahil false na yung G, false na agad yan. Now, if this is false, the only way a consequent will be false is if the statement, if D is false, right? The only instance this will be false, this will be true because this is already a true statement. The only instance for F to be true is for D to be false. But sadly, D is not false, right? Because as you have seen already here, as you can see here, D is already true in truth value. Di ba? D is already true. That's why D cannot be false already. In this instance, this will produce a contradiction, and therefore this statement is always true or is valid, because you will never have an instance where this will be a true premise and a false conclusion. So this example is always true, no? And for that, is always valid. So please work on the rest. I showed you one, so that's how it works. Now, of course, there are more problem statements to consider. So this slide gives you additional practice using the direct method. For these problems, your work should have 5 clearly identified parts. First, construct the guide columns. List all possible combinations of truth values using the second to the nth rule. Again, if the guide columns is wrong, if you didn't do as instructed, then it's already wrong. No? Sorry. Second, construct the premises first. Construct the premise columns and calculate the truth value of every premise. Third, calculate the conclusion column. Fourth, identify any counterexamples. Again, look specifically for that instance where all premises are true and the conclusion is false. Fifth, give your final judgment. Write either valid or invalid. So the 2 problems on this slide are for practice. Please solve them. No? And I'm referring to problem A and problem B. And then common mistakes. The slide also identifies 5 common mistakes. The first mistake is thinking that a false premise automatically makes an argument invalid. That is incorrect. When testing validity, we are interested only in rows where all premises are true. The second mistake is saying the conclusion is false, therefore the argument is invalid. Again, not necessarily. The conclusion must be false while all the premises are true. The third mistake is saying everything is true in this row, therefore the argument is valid. One good row does not prove validity. We must make sure there is no bad row anywhere in the table. The fourth mistake is thinking that we need several counterexamples. We do not. One counterexample is sufficient to establish invalidity. The fifth mistake is forgetting the conditional rule. Remember, if T, then F. That's equivalent. If the antecedent is true and the consequent is false, that's a false conditional. That is the only false conditional. Okay? So again, more classroom workout for the direct table. Symbolize, count and compute, build and solve, search, decide. No? For indirect truth tables, write the argument clearly, assume T, every premise, write F in the conclusion. This is your starting point. Assign, so, and then assign. Okay? So, final synthesis. One question rules everything. This slide brings the entire lesson back to one question. Can all the premises be true while the conclusion is false? That is what we have been asking from the beginning. The direct method answers these by constructing every possible row and searching for that combination. The indirect method answers the same question by trying to construct that combination directly. So remember the central rule. All premises true plus the conclusion false, that is invalid. Everything else we have learned is simply a method for determining whether this combination is possible. So, uh, so there are vocabularies to understand, but putting it all together, again, uh, at this point, we have two methods for testing deductive arguments. The first is a direct truth table, and use these when there are relatively few variables and you want to see all possible truth combinations. The second is the indirect truth table, and use these when there are more variables, and constructing the complete table would take too much time. But the logical foundation of both methods is identical. A valid argument makes it impossible for all the premises to be true and the conclusion false. An invalid argument makes that combination possible. So when giving your final answer, do not simply write valid or invalid. State the verdict and give a clear reason based on the table or the truth value assignment. This leads me to my final slide. Again, there's just one formula. All premises true, conclusion false. That is invalid. Okay? That's the only time it's invalid. The rest, for the direct method, we search through the completed truth table to see whether this combination appears completed. For the indirect method, we deliberately try to construct this combination. If it is possible, the argument is invalid. If it is impossible, the argument is valid. So when you are confused about what to look for in a truth table, return to this formula. Premises true, conclusion false, invalid. Everything else is simply a procedure for determining whether the situation is possible or not. I wish you well in your exercises. Of course, you can go to the assigned textbook to you, and you will see that in the textbook, I have given more examples, not just in the first phase, where we really discuss the truth tables, but at the back of the text, there's also more examples to look forward to. No, allow me to show the textbook, so that you have a clear understanding of what I'm talking about. So let's look at so what we're looking at and what you can check is this instance. I'm close na. Immediately after these, actually, the next chapter. Tier. I know, logical equivalences. Ito, valid, deductive arguments, validity, and truth. And in this section, you can look at the examples. Nawala. So you will see we provided many examples. You can check it. You can try it. Here, please take note of the activities here, exercise. There are 4 truth tables here. And then 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for the indirect truth tables, there are also examples here. You can try these examples also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But don't go to chapter 4, but you can go to the bottom of the page, and in the latter part of the page here, truth tables for arguments. Please do these exercises also. We have 1, 2, those are 2 exercises, and then 3 using indirect table. Maybe you can also use direct tables first here so that you have an experience of the long table. Because as I've said, don't do indirect first, then do direct first and then do indirect next. That will give you better handle about these things. Again, I'll see you when I see you, but enjoy the activities of today's class. Have a nice day, everyone.